Anxiety is a high-cost burden, and I'm not talking about money. It costs you sleep, it costs you relationships, it steals time you can never get back. And it robs you of moments that should have been peaceful, memories that should have been present. It's like carrying an invisible weight that only you can feel every single day. The worst part is that many of us believe this is just how life is now, a state of constant worry and stress, always bracing for what might go wrong. The Stoics, however, had a different perspective. They taught that peace isn't discovered when chaos ends, but when you stop letting the chaos control you. That's our focus today, not on abstract philosophy, but on practical, real-world tools for dealing with anxiety the way the Stoics did with purpose, clarity, and calm. This is because once you realize you're not helpless, and you have the power to respond differently, everything starts to shift. The noise fades, the fog lifts, and a quiet strength emerges to take its place. If these reflections resonate with a steady, honest part of you, a part rooted in truth, growth, and the quiet strength of Stoicism, please consider subscribing. It's a small but meaningful act, a way to walk this path with deliberate intention. We often live with the illusion that peace is just one problem away from being solved. We think, once I finish this project, or once they text me back, or once I figure out this one thing, then I'll be okay. We act as if peace is hiding just beyond the next checkbox. But here's the difficult truth: it never is. This is a trick anxiety plays on us. It makes us believe that relief is in the future when, in reality, our relationship with the present is what needs healing. Ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius understood this. He once wrote, "Today I escaped from anxiety," or no, I discarded it, because it was within me. Notice that powerful shift. He didn't escape anything external. He let go of something that was his to release. The philosopher Socrates believed that the unexamined life is not worth living. And anxiety often thrives in the unexamined parts of our mind. It flourishes where we haven't brought awareness. You can't outrun anxiety because it's not chasing you, it's riding with you in your thoughts, in your need to control things that were never yours to control, and in your expectations. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is precisely what anxiety does. It takes over silently, and we label it as normal. But you are not powerless. The fact that it resides within you also means you have the power to release it. The breath you just took, that was your first step toward freedom. There's something humorous about how we navigate life. We create silent blueprints in our heads for how things should go. The flight should be on time, the meeting should be smooth, the kids should behave. When reality deviates from this plan, even slightly, our entire sense of stability wobbles. Why? Because we have tied our peace to a version of reality that only exists in our minds. But here's the catch. Life has never promised to follow your plans. As the Stoics remind us, many things in the world are not under our control. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." The sooner we learn to distinguish between the two, the lighter we feel. The ancient Greeks also wrestled with this. Plato once wrote that a good decision is based on knowledge, not on numbers. In modern terms, this means we should not measure a moment by how perfectly it matches our expectations, but by how wisely we respond to it. Anxiety thrives on the need for control. It feeds on the tight grip of "this must go my way." But life is beautifully flawed, unpredictable, and messy. Peace isn't found in trying to fix every crack. It's in learning to sit calmly in the middle of the mess. Carl Jung once noted, "Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness." So, instead of asking, "How can I make this perfect?" ask yourself, "Can I let this be imperfect and still find peace?" Most of us spend so much time trying to avoid discomfort that we forget how capable we truly are. We tiptoe around our fears, rejection, uncertainty, as if avoiding them will make us stronger. In reality, avoidance does the opposite. It inflates the fear in our minds until it feels untouchable. The Stoics had a different approach. They didn't wait for hard things to happen. They practiced them. Seneca, though wealthy, would sleep on the floor, wear rough clothes, and eat basic food. Why? To remind himself that he could survive discomfort. He understood that fear shrinks when you face it directly. He would ask himself, "Is this what I was so afraid of?" And the answer was almost always no. There's power in choosing to do what scares you. Aristotle believed that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. You can't master something you're unwilling to engage with. Fast for a day. Walk into silence without your phone. Speak up when you'd rather stay quiet. When you do these things, you start to realize that the fear was mostly smoke and mirrors. As Carl Jung put it, what you resist, persists. But when you look it in the eye, it changes shape. Anxiety thrives in the unknown, in vague what-ifs and half-seen shadows. But once you bring those shadows into the light and choose the difficult thing, you take back your power. Not because the fear disappears, but because you're no longer running from it. Some problems don't need to be solved. They just need space. Have you ever noticed how you can be stuck on a tangled thought for hours and get nowhere? But after a 10-minute walk, things suddenly feel lighter. It's not magic, it's motion. The Stoics believed the mind and body were not separate but part of the same system. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor and philosopher, found peace not just in writing his meditations but in moving through the world with awareness. When his thoughts started to loop, he grounded himself in simple action. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But sometimes, that retreat begins by simply putting one foot in front of the other. Aristotle was said to teach philosophy while walking, and his followers were called the peripatetics, the walking thinkers. They knew what modern psychology now confirms. Movement changes how we think. It disrupts internal noise, loosens emotional knots, and gives your nervous system a moment to reset. Carl Jung believed that walking in nature had a healing effect, not because it fixed your life, but because it helped you recenter yourself in the midst of it. That tightness in your chest doesn't always mean something's wrong. Sometimes, it just means you need air. So before you spiral deeper into your thoughts, pause, put on your shoes, step outside, let your body lead your mind for once. You don't have to solve everything. You just have to move. And in that movement, a little bit of peace can sneak in through the back door. Most people believe that thinking about worst-case scenarios will only make their anxiety worse. To be fair, it can if you do it incorrectly. If you're just spiraling into panic and imagining everything going wrong without a plan, you are simply feeding the fear. But if you do it the Stoic way, it's a completely different story. The practice is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca used it to imagine all the things that could go wrong, not to scare himself but to prepare his mind. He believed that if you familiarize yourself with difficulty ahead of time, you will handle it more calmly when it arrives. Or, even better, you might realize it's not nearly as bad as your fear made it out to be. This is what modern psychology calls cognitive rehearsal. Instead of passively worrying, you mentally walk through how you would respond. Carl Jung said, "Even when it's darkest, I can do something." That's something that planning often enough to stop the fear from taking over. Aristotle believed that practical wisdom, or phronesis, was the ability to act rightly in uncertain situations. And that's exactly what this is. You're not obsessing, you're preparing. You're reminding yourself that chaos doesn't mean you're powerless, and that you can meet the moment with calm because you've already walked through it in your mind. Plan, prepare, then release it. You don't need to carry the weight of every possibility. Just know that if it happens, you'll handle it. There's a strange quality to the human mind. It can be a brilliant ally or a relentless trickster. When you're stuck in your head, everything feels heavier. Thoughts echo, bounce around, and begin to sound more convincing than they actually are. You replay a comment someone made, analyze the silence after a text, or predict a full-blown disaster from a single glance. In that mental loop, things feel urgent, real, and undeniable. But then you say it out loud, just once, and suddenly it loses some of its grip. You hear yourself and think, wait, is that actually true? This is the power of externalizing a thought. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are troubled by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it." Sometimes your estimate is just off. Talking reveals that Plato believed that dialogue was essential to wisdom, not just because of the exchange of ideas but because we clarify our own thinking through conversation. What feels enormous in silence can feel manageable when voiced. Carl Jung put it this way, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." Talking doesn't make you weak, it makes you clearer and more human. Whether it's to a close friend, a therapist, or even journaling as if you're speaking to someone, it all cool.